So now we're going to do 5 minutes with Karen, who's the Graduate Programs Analyst at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, which is a great name. So I was going to ask you...
Still ask.
Okay. Oh, I'm still going to ask you. Okay. So in terms of what you're thinking about and your keynote, I really wanted to talk about the idea of planning not to plan and the inherent tensions that comes with that as we try and structure ourselves not to be structured.
Well, I would like to try and answer that by playing a short game with you.
Excellent.
So here we are on a stage. Let's say we're improvising a scene. Our job is to decide who we are, our relationship with one another, where we are, and what we're doing. That's our job. So we're on a bus together, or a tram, let's say, right? It's easy to understand.
With you.
And I say, Corin, I'm so glad you're wearing that sweater that I knit for you today. You might respond,
well, that's great. I decided I really should wear it because you gave it to me, and I thought this is the first time we've seen each other since you gave it to me.
It has been a while since I gave it to you, and I'd like to talk to you about that because as my grandson, I expect you to visit me every day.
Well, you know, I'm really quite busy, and I'm constantly on social media, and sometimes I just forget.
All right, well, we're going to resolve this through the course of the scene, and somewhere in that scene we'll find a game. Now, let's say I complimented you on your sweater, and you responded in kind, you know, thank you for the anniversary present. I'm so glad we're still together after all this time. A different relationship, right? Not grandmother-grandson, but some sort of partner. I have to deal with that reality. I have to let go of this idea that, oh, I'm going to start a scene with Corin, and we're going to be grandmother and grandson, and away we go. You just created that reality for us. So planning not to plan sounds a little bit scary, but really what it means is responding to what's happening, responding to that reality, whether or not you like it. So in preparing for this talk, I was revisiting my improvisation background, and I found this fantastic book called Improv Wisdom. Don't prepare, just show up. It's by Patricia Ryan Madsen, and I thought, okay, I like this book, but the title is a little off-putting. I'm not going to show up at VALA. A slide deck, I just decided not to do one of those. But revisiting those ideas, it's not, again, about not preparing, it's about dealing with what's happening now.
Great. Now you've thrown me completely off track. Can we just carry on with the role play? That'd be great.
Sure.
You know, I'm interested to see where this goes. You know, I was expecting to be scolded, you know, for my continued inadequacies as a grandchild.
And that happens so much in improv. When people try it at first, they want to argue.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, so that's, I absolutely get what you're getting at there. So in a work context, as we seek to carry out the functions that we're required to by our organisations, who often are required to do annual plans and tell everybody what they're going to do 20 years in advance so that everybody can prepare for it and budget for it in 4-year cycles, etc. How do you use that in ways that enable the organisation to grow and do things, but at the same point conform?
Conform. I think a lot of it is looking for those pockets where you can experiment. I mean, there are some things that that are set, that are less flexible. But for example, in the context of where we are now, because context is so important, Australia is talking all about community engagement. And I don't mean community engagement as a euphemism for advancements and fundraising, although that obviously ties in, but truly the community is collaborator. Like, and now I've lost my train of thought. It's so easy up here. Remind me of what you wanted me to riff on. Oh, right.
You're operating within that, yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, my colleagues and I just did strategic planning at the library before I left, and each one of them went back to their department. So we were a group across the departments of the library, and everyone decided how they wanted to facilitate strategic planning for the future within their particular department. So my colleague Nikki, who works in collections, honored the experience of her colleagues who'd been there 20, 30 years, almost through an ethnographic sort of survey. Where have you been? What have you done? Where are we now? What are the changes you've seen? Really sort of acknowledging the past. My colleague Patrick, who works in library information technology, he went back and he built this pyramid. He called it the Pyramid of Silver Sagacity, and he had people put ideas for the future inside that pyramid. So taking those ideas in that strategic planning process, whoa, we're back. And looking for ways for people to be creative and open up, and then you kind of put it through the funnel later and decide, what does this mean in those different departments? I hope I answered your question.
Well, that's certainly an approach.
It's something.
And of course, through your start, I actually failed to start the timer, so I've got no idea where we are in the 5 minutes. So, let's finish with a question about... oh, very good, very good. So how, if you're working with a team and you want to bring a team on that journey, on working in that way, what's the bedrock, do you think, of actually getting them started and operating that way?
Emma Lawler talked about this morning in her presentation and how difficult it can be to get people on board with the idea of play. And she talked about waiting it out through time, gaining people's trust, which I think is important. Finding those sort of low stakes area where if you fail, it's not a big deal. You don't even process it as a failure. It was just like, oh, that's what happened there. And really sort of building that culture and looking for pockets. And she said something I thought that was so wise about being both a counselor and a facilitator, so that when people do feel uncomfortable about being vulnerable in front of their colleagues or trying something new, that through that practice you come to realize, oh, I have someone I can talk to, or oh, they feel uncomfortable also. Oh, we're all going to be okay here. I think it's really relationship building.
Right. So, and my final observation would be that a lot of librarians aren't that good with ambiguity.
Yes.
So that would be an interesting challenge within our profession.
Yes. And that's why I'm excited about community engagement, because I think that particular area is one where you can really engage your community as collaborators and play and have a little bit more ambiguity, whereas in other library sort of roles, that's maybe not appropriate, and that's okay.
And that's a very entertaining 5 minutes with Karen. Thank you.
Thank you.